Hello, Wanderers. Welcome to Soul Wanderings, heard here on Wednesday night. We have a little situation. I don't know what's going on with YouTube, but we're going to see if that fixes anything. You guys, we use this platform called StreamYard, and I don't know what's going on. It's like added this all new things, and I don't know. I'm not a technical person, so here we are. We are having a show that is showing up as vertical. I'll work on that while Natalie chit chats. I'll see what we can do. Anyways,
Oh,
hi everyone. We are not here for technical stuff. We are here for deep conversations.
that's right.
So ignore all of that stuff. So hi, I'm AJ,
Oh, wow. Look at that go. I'm Natalie.
and we're your host of Soul Wanderings. And we come on here every Wednesday night, almost pretty much consistently. I mean, next week, we will not be, but yeah, we're here almost every Wednesday doing the thing, picking a show topic, and then just talking about our experiences, our feelings, our thoughts, all of that good stuff. The show topics are picked mostly by like what we're feeling through the week or what our clientele is going through the week, and also like you guys, you vote. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you do the things with us, and it's so good. So we just do our best to show up in those ways. Oh, I just fixed something. um, and just be authentically ourselves in this conversation. So we're every Wednesday night from 6 p.m. Mountain, 8 p.m. Eastern. And yeah, if you want to learn more about us, you can visit soulwanderings.com. We have a plethora of history on there from when we were on a radio station. Now we just kind of do our own thing here on YouTube. And if you have a show topic or request, you can email us at connect@soulwanderings.com. Tonight, we decided that our topic of conversation is going to be about suffering. And is it optional? Is suffering optional? And Natalie, I really want you to if you don't mind, lean into the beginning of this. And I'm going to play around with some settings here because I don't like what's going on. If you don't
Suffering.
mind.
I don't mind. Just like this is all examples on how if life is throwing things at you, you don't have to suffer through it. You can actually go through things consciously. So I'm really interested to dig into this topic too. Um, it it reminds me just on the surface of a lot of Buddhist teachings that say life is suffering. So Buddhist teachings actually say life is suffering, but then as you learn meditation and you learn to practice surrendering more to life and allowing the thoughts and your body to just drift and be more present in the ever present eternal now, then you learn that um, that you don't have to suffer through things. You actually start to release. You don't get trapped by life as much, definitely not as thoughts as much as you do if you don't have that perspective on life. Fostering the observant mind. And, I went to my meditation retreat in 2011 and it definitely switched. So if you haven't gone through something like that, where diving into an intense experience like that, um, I can't say what it would be like now for me without that and all the other things that I've chosen to do, which take me through different different teachings, different learning, beyond what I was just given in my childhood or growing up or in my adult years. So I learned to foster the observant mind. So now I have the ability to observe life as it's going along, which definitely doesn't release me from all troubles in my life, but I feel like I don't suffer like I definitely used to. I remember in my early adulthood how I suffered so.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was a really good martyr, which people that know me now would say, "What?" I am sure because I don't have that martyrdom anymore that I used to back then. So I'm definitely a fan of saying suffering is optional. And but the options, if you take optional and you drop it down to options, I think options really come from a more conscious approach to life, being more mindful in your everyday life. If you don't have that going, then it seems like the options are much more limited, and suffering tends to be more of a state for lots of people
Mhm.
going through life.
Yeah. Okay, show's over. Did good job.
Done. That's the way it is. It's optional.
The end. Yeah. No, thank you for sharing all of that. I can't figure out this. If you guys are on YouTube, I don't know if you guys just see the vertical or what, but obviously they keep up like adding all these new features and things on our platform. And I guess I didn't read the fine print. I just bypass all that stuff. I'm like, next, next, next. Um, if yeah, anyway. So let me know. I don't know if it matters, but it's bothering me, and that's what matters for me right now. That bothers me. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Charles. Charles chimed in. Cool. Ah, okay, guys, I'll calm down now. Anyways, talk about suffering. This is a good example. I just was schooled. That's what happens when we pick these topics, right?
Mm-hmm.
We definitely get schooled. So I really like what you said. And I think, when we are younger, we have a tendency to believe that it's really necessary and important. And sometimes maybe attention seeking when we are suffering or act as if we are suffering, right? Because we have a story, we have something to offer that someone else can relate to, and then they can feed into our story or support our story or, whatever that looks like. And I think that's just part of growing and evolving as a human being is that you're able to, um, hopefully at some point sooner than later recognize like what you're putting yourself through and how unnecessary it can be.
Mm.
And there are so many people who always say, if God was real, why would he allow so much suffering? Or she or it, or why would they allow so much suffering? That's like the one question I get. I'm sure you do too, like especially with grief.
Yeah.
Like how do I believe in a higher power who allows these things to take place? And wasn't raised to believe in a higher power. I was raised to like figure it out on my own. And so that wasn't ever a question that I had, but it is a question that happens or I hear quite often. So I've never really had an answer for that other than what I experienced in my own life. And as I have evolved and, stepped out of the suffering cycle, um, to have an understanding that nothing is happening to us, it's always happening for us. And it's not a higher power or a person or any other thing that causes our suffering. Like the reason why we suffer is an inside job, and that bad things happen. Painful things happen, I should say. I won't even say bad because that's not accurate for me, but painful things can happen. In
Yeah.
fact, there is a story that have you ever heard of the Buddhist belief on suffering about the two arrows?
The two arrows?
Uh-huh.
No.
So there's the two arrows. It's a Buddhist belief. And It goes something like this. One day, the Buddha was sitting with his disciples and just like hanging out, chilling, whatever they do. And a man approached him and asked, "Why do I suffer? And why do people experience so much pain and sorrow?" And the Buddhist replied with, "Pain is inevitable in life, but suffering is optional. And let me explain to you with a story." And he goes on to say, "There once was a man who was shot with an arrow. And as soon as the arrow hit him, he felt the pain instantly. But instead of like pulling out the arrow and seeking help, he began to worry about the consequences of being shot with that arrow and kept thinking like, what if the arrow is poisoned? What if I die? What will happen to my family? What will happen to my possessions? What will happen to this, that, and the other?" And he created this whole story around the arrow. And in doing so, he added unnecessary suffering to his pain. So the man's experience was like being hit with two arrows, because the first arrow represents the unavoidable pain that comes with just like being alive, such as like illness or grief, like loss, aging, like, the normal life things. And the second arrow represents the thoughts that we add to our pain through our thoughts or through our experiences and our worries and our fears. And although we can't control the first arrow, we can choose how we respond to it and avoid the second arrow. And then the Buddha continued to say, by cultivating mindfulness and wisdom, we can learn to see our experiences as they truly are without adding necessary layers and emotion. And we can learn to be present. Yeah, be present with our pain without resisting or running away from it. And that allows us to reduce the suffering we experience in life and find a greater sense of peace and happiness because of it. So the story of the two arrows teaches us to, one, be in the present moment. And although we can't control the experiences of life, we have the power to choose the way we respond to them.
Yes, that is definitely true.
Mm-hmm.
That reminds me of so when you sit, I didn't sit lotus style because I didn't when in my meditation retreat, but when you sit for a whole hour, it's incredible how much pain can be in your feet and ankles and
And your
legs.
hips.
And oh, it was so, I had quite an experience because we were in the mountains of Idaho by Ketchum, which is by Sun Valley. And it was in October, and it snowed, and I didn't read all the instructions very well on taking stuff. So I wasn't as well equipped. So,
Surprise!
yes. So not only did I have the experience of sitting still for, I did 4 meditations a day for an hour each time with the pain that was present in the body. And, but it was cold too. So those are 2 different sensations, and that's what Vipassana meditation is really about, is tuning into the sensation of the body and having no judgment about it. Not judging it, just experiencing it and watching it. And what a powerful experience. And practicing that, I can't tell you. I've used that thread when I've been ill or when I've had horrible headaches. I've also and I did another mindfulness course that was based in mindfulness-based stress reduction, and it actually trained us to go into the pain and watch the pain, and see the pain as its own entity or being, or since instead of just being trapped by it, then you have this little bit of separation between the pain or some sensation or experience in your life and you. And only through practice can you start to experience that there's this little space and you're not. And then I really got to understand and know I'm not the pain, I'm not the thoughts, I'm not the experience. I'm not those things. I'm the eternal essence that's riding around on this body, this consciousness, having an experience. And then the experience doesn't become a trap anymore because everything is temporary. Everything.
Mm.
There's nothing that's permanent in this world, and that is the freedom ticket, is to really
Mm.
understand that any given experience is temporary. So carting around previous experiences that happened in the past becomes sort of without awareness, becomes a sort of madness because you realize that that's not now. Those experiences aren't now. And it allows you to put it many things that happen to you in your life, then you gain the awareness of what it was for. What was that for?
Mhm.
And that awareness of everything is for you, then removes the suffering because it can be integrated and acceptance comes much easier and you don't fight what actually happened. It can become the source of wisdom or discovery and realizing things that don't work well and all the aspects that any of us have that we can leverage so we can really get the life that we're born to live those through that way.
I love that. Sounds like they're having a party outside our office. Hey, we want to be invited.
That's right.
um yeah, there's like, I really felt on this topic in particular because there was the biggest majority of my life was me suffering. And I had no idea or didn't have an understanding that the reason why I was suffering was because of myself. That when I was complaining about things that were happening to me, and this happened, and this happened, and this is why I'm this way, and this is why I act this way, how damaging it was to my soul, to myself, to my human experience. And it it wasn't even in my awareness until, like, you know, I would say quite recently, like 10, 12 years. And I think about how much suffering I put myself through and the process of the awareness that took place inside of me when I realized like how much of a role I had in my own suffering and the accountability that I had to um, place on myself so that I would not choose into this narrative anymore, right? And it took people who loved me and saw me to say, "Hey, there are other ways that you could have looked at that situation." And it wasn't that I was like trying to be that way.
No.
I just only knew that way. And I feel like I knew that because, the way we're conditioned, the people we surround ourselves with, maybe our parents or our siblings or whatever that looks like. And we just we just learn that life is hard, right?
Mm.
And things don't come easy. And you think about all of these specific sayings you may have heard from your parents, like money doesn't grow on trees and you got to work really, 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 really hard. And, just like these little things that may not mean anything in the moment, but then they infiltrate into you and your belief system and they become your beliefs. And then, when you believe in something, you really use that in your stories because you're seeking something that you're missing, whether that be validation or love or comfort or whatever it could be. And I just like when we talk about this topic and just say, suffering is optional. If you're suffering, it's your own fault. I don't want to ever come across that way to anybody,
Nope.
because I have compassion for us as human beings with everything that goes on in a human experience, period. But that especially is something that we actually have control that we've been taught that we don't. And so I think it's really neat that we're talking about the topic, one, because if there's someone out there who is suffering, hopefully, hope, we can give them that, right? We can give them that hope and maybe bring some light into their darkness that they're experiencing right now, and an opportunity for them to lean into a new way of navigating their way through their experiences. And I think by doing that, like you share your experiences, I share my experiences. We're just authentic. And I'm not comfortable talking about this with myself because I had a lot of garbage in my life.
Mm.
And I spent a lot of my life like really using that as other people's choices towards me as an excuse instead of taking accountability for my role in it. That makes me uncomfortable to talk about or even say out loud, but it's necessary. It's part of releasing the suffering that I carried for so long. And now I get to look at myself in a much different light with ease and grace. And when something painful does happen in my life, it's not devastating anymore because I look at it so much differently, depending on the experience, how I look at it. But it's just so much different than it was before. And there's no more suffering. There's no more suffering. And there's this amount of freedom that you feel or experience by coming to the other side of that, of choosing not to suffer. And it's not like being oblivious to your experience, like, or disassociating with your experience. That's not what this is about at all. It's just a new awareness to the experience and shedding light on it instead of the dark.
Oh, definitely. So the one thing, a couple of things to note: accountability. When you are willing to take an honest accountability and not overboard either way, when you or anyone is able to take accountability for their part, that separates the other parts, which can then be accountability to the other people that are involved
Mm-hmm.
in various things. So that's a healthy step forward of just saying, I did have a part that I played, and other people had their part. I'm not responsible for anyone else's part. That I had my part to play, and those lines can be drawn more clearly with that. The other thing I wanted to bring up was, you mentioned, how could there be this suffering if there's a God or something bigger than us? From my framework, we're here to grow. Without adversity, there's no growth. So we just take simple things. There must be weight pushed against your arm to grow muscles. There must be resistance in things for growth to happen. So in this experiential way, without any challenges, there isn't the growth opportunity. And yes, I understand some people be like, well, I must be really big because I got lots of challenges. Well, there is something to say that, and from what I've seen and working with people, when you change the way you look at something, everything changes. Like, that thing changes, your perspective changes. You stop having as many things that affect you in the same way, because you gain more skill sets, more perspective. You really begin to know. So if you don't have the awareness that suffering really is optional, you have the awareness of suffering is the state of being, and that can be difficult. I've had friends that I've seen in their suffering stages, and I've had to get, because I did vicarious, I did transferred suffering. I would find myself suffering with them, for them, because of them, and it wasn't my thing. I didn't have any, I wasn't making the choices. I watched two people walking today when I was driving, and they carried a lot of weight, and they looked like they were struggling in their body and walking, just because if with health problems, it looked like. I don't know, they were walking on the sidewalk, but both of them were just sort of like, and I had this awareness. Our crystal of consciousness is riding around in one body. One body. There's only one person that really can be responsible for what goes into the body, what the body consumes, just one person. Unless you're little, but that's not what we're not really talking to little toddlers now. So with that awareness, each one of us are driving this body around. Our decisions put us in different places, and decision making really does have a powerful play on things. So with the awareness, I just want to put that forward that says, you've got to gain some skill sets. If you're having life challenges, there is often a learning experience.
Mhm.
And through embracing that experience, facing it, the arrow story is very good, because it says you can just mire yourself in worry and concerns and being caught in the past or the future, instead of being in now and being inspired in the now on how to navigate your life. And the inspiration really only comes in the now. So if you don't know how to stay present in your life, and trauma and various life experiences can knock us out of that. We would want to be anywhere but now, because the now's been demonstrated to be hard and difficult,
Mhm.
and where all the trouble is, or all the goodness, It's a this and that.
Do you feel that it's necessary to feel suffering to a certain extent?
I don't know if I feel like it's necessary. I find that if it is something you've experienced, that's the, what do I want to say? That's the fodder. Oh, have you ever, when we have our metal tested, there's that language that said, or we're in the refiner's fire.
I've heard of that, but I have no idea. Like, I don't know the story behind this statement.
So it's about when they make swords. A sword is taken, and they have the hot molten metal, and they mold it into a rough shape of a sword, and then they
Mhm.
pound it and pound it and pound it and pound it, and then they stick it back in the fire and get it hot again, and then pound it and sometimes fold it. So it goes in and out and in and out and in and out of heat, like intense heat, intense things. It gets banged on and shaped and molded into a fine edge. And that's the refiner's fire. And when we look at things, we are,
Woo, that's life for sure.
yes. And so we can be refined, or we can just be battered around. And all of these are concepts and are philosophical or teachings.
Yeah.
And those things are given to us to take into our everyday life, everyday experience, and applied on the front line of life,
Mhm.
because that's where it's all formed and happening.
See, and that's why with that question, I just wonder, like, how do we become this sharpened, refined edge without some level of the suffering? And
Um,
so,
yeah, I think that it definitely is an aspect of life.
yeah.
I I've had it in my life. I deal with it all the time. I deal people when they've lost a loved one, they fight against death. There should be some other way than death. Why do people have to die? Why, these big questions. Why does someone have to die? Or
Mm.
they think that that person didn't have to die when they did die. Maybe so, but obviously the death happened. So we're arguing with what happened um, is suffering in
Mhm.
its own way. So we're given programs. So last week we talked about simulation, and we're in a program, and we've been given all these programs you mentioned, the framework that our parents had about life, or all these things. So that stuff is
Mhm.
just given to us. It does require some rebellion from what we're given, and
Mhm.
pushing against those norms to see where else we can get to.
Mhm.
Can we be beyond that? What's the highest right? Is there a higher road? Is there another philosophy that we can learn that we could maybe employ to help us through our life? That's what I've done.
Mhm.
Just because I read some consciousness book didn't mean that I got it.
Right.
I didn't have
It
that
doesn't work
embodied.
that way.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Yeah, when I remember when I just started this journey, of course, I was like thirsty for knowledge, right? Because you have one little experience that makes you just feel so good or so empowered or so loved. And you're like, ooh, I want more of that. And so you start seeking and you go on this journey of self discovery. And a lot of times it takes people down the path of spirituality and like the bigger questions like who am I, what am I here for, what's my purpose, like all of that good stuff. But that was how I wanted to know it all, I wanted to experience it all, and I also didn't want to hurt anymore. That was the biggest thing, like why in my life do I attract these experiences? What am I doing? What's my role in this? How come I'm suffering so much when I see these other people who are like happy and thriving, or, whatever it appeared to be to me? And I I really love just going into like new concepts and ideas. But the thing that I found is like you can like dip your toes in any belief or any practice or listen to any guru, but you have to have the experience yourself. You
Yeah.
just have to. And so books are great. The shows like this are great. They may open your eyes, their mind to something different than where you've been, a different path. But when you first begin with this whole idea, like I'm suffering, where do you feel like someone would benefit in beginning on healing the suffering or the extent of suffering? Like embracing the suffering, if you will. Like I've heard people say, embrace the suffering with kindness, or if you know how to suffer, you suffer less. Like, statements like that. Like, but that means nothing to me in the beginning of a journey. So, beginner mindset, what would you say to someone who is suffering and you see them on this path and this cycle that they're always suffering? How how would you help someone else out of that hamster wheel, if you will?
Well, it's interesting because what came to mind when you were talking was I actually say embrace the suck.
Yeah, you do. I remember that now.
So embracing the suck puts you more in an acceptance phase.
Mm,
When you can step into a place like it is happening, and you embrace the suck. So when I'm dealing with people that are grieving, inevitably, really truly, I get people that come into my groups, and they will really want the checklist. Okay, tell me what I need to do to get out of this grief journey. And I just can't do that. The reality is that um, the grief journey is eased by embracing the fact that you grieve when someone or something precious that you had once is no longer there. And
mhm,
so embracing and leaning into that. So
mhm,
let's just say someone was dealing with difficulty with money. There's a lot of suffering that happens when you don't have enough money. And you can go into if you lean in and say, okay, there's only so much money, and maybe I need to embrace the fact that my financial system needs a closer look And so you look more deeply at it. So you go in, and the beginner's mind in Buddhist philosophy is a wondering mind, a curious mind. And when you get curious about things and you lean in instead of out, there is a switch that happens with you. So it really is a beginner's mind. It is about getting curious. It really is about a willingness to be in a particular situation. Listen, and then maybe there's a recognition that if you're listening to this and your mind is arguing with what we're saying, we'll just notice that your mind is arguing. And you're talking yourself out of what we're saying more than going, oh, there's a possibility.
It's like the second arrow.
It is like the second arrow. That is because people, you can hear, and I've done it in my life before. I didn't understand. I remember when I was a young woman and I was like, I don't get it. There was a song that I would listen to that said, if I could just simply understand, it would, if I could make it all make sense. But it felt like there was a language going on around me that I didn't know.
Yeah, that's how I felt when I first started. It was so confusing.
Yes, and rightfully so, because we, at least those of us in America or the Western world, are saying, look, anyone could be a guru.
Mhm.
And weekend workshop, and then you're just going to get it. We're so impatient, we're not willing to
Mhm.
discover over the long haul. And I have to tell you that this skill set is not developed overnight or
No.
anywhere close to.
I mean, I
Anywhere
feel
close
like I
to.
still practice it,
Yes. For the
right?
rest of our lives.
Yeah.
We're really long-lived beings, and we come evolutionary from a shorter life. It was not but a few hundred years ago where people lived just to 30 or 40 or 50. And now we
Mhm.
routinely live to our 80s or sometimes 90s. And so we bloom much later. So we're not really fully developed at our late teens, early 20s, not
Mhm.
in the least bit.
No.
So life is really long. And I also deal with people that are suffering because relationships get damaged, family members, there's difficulty with family members, and someone's upset and then they've cut off a relationship. And I have a saying in my head that said, life is long. If you just, sometimes patience, clarity, you and I have been practicing waiting for clarity, and that patience and understanding that over time, the picture always comes more clear over time. It just does. And there's a
Mhm.
lot of times people want an expectation of like, I need it now. I need it
Mhm.
now. I've got to figure it out now. I need to get out of this situation now. And it certainly did not take, you certainly didn't get into situations. If you're like in a financial bind or something like that, or your financial situation, that generally didn't happen overnight. And so situations didn't tend to happen overnight. So getting out of them doesn't either. But that said, there is also the thing that if we have, let's say we got in a car accident, which took seconds, and the healing time takes much longer. So an awareness of that as well, that said, a
Mhm.
change in your life can happen in a second. Your life can just switch so quickly.
Yeah.
And healing's going to take a long time.
Time. Very, very true.
And we are so often, as individuals, the least compassionate to ourselves. And
Isn't
that
that the
means
truth?
that you're not just even with the arrow and like worrying and everything, but you're just taking your feet out from under you, and the
Mhm.
mind talk that we as individuals have. Ooh,
Mhm.
oh, most often you would not say that to someone else.
No. No. I've been on a big self-care, or not even self-care, self-love. Care has part of it, but like a self-love journey the last couple of years. And whoo, why is it so challenging to love ourselves the way we like say we love other people? It's just wild to me.
Some of that
Um,
comes from this we have an illusion of separation that we're separate from everything else.
we've talked about that actually, but it's been a beautiful journey though. I'm so grateful for it.
Oh, yes.
Charles, who I have to just shout out because Charles is our very first listener of Soul Wanderings ever since 9 years ago, the very beginning, the very first show. And he shows up every week pretty much. So grateful. Thank you, Charles. He sent a, a message for me to share with you guys. It's the parable of helping the butterfly out of its cocoon.
I love
Oh,
this.
I do too. And I'm so grateful for our wanderers. Thank you. A wise wanderer and a student were in the garden watching a butterfly struggle to free itself from its cocoon. It struggled greatly, then stopped, exhausted, then began again to free its beautiful wings and become its true self. Again and again, until only a part of one wing was left stuck in the husk. The student reached out and freed the butterfly from its shell. The butterfly just sat there. It did not fly away with the others. The teacher said, "This butterfly will never be able to take wing to the wind." The effort of pulling itself out if its cocoon is needed to form its wings. This one will never be able to fly. Our struggle is part of the journey of growth, and while you may want to seek outside ourself for answers or want help along the way, you are the only one who can do this work and become your best self. Isn't that awesome?
It is so powerful.
That's so good.
That's a very good story for this topic.
At the end of the day, it's always an inside job. I know
Always.
that we have like support and teachers and friends and maybe family, but always like you are alone with yourself 24/7, regardless of like who's coming in your area or not. And the most important environment for you to keep clean is your mind,
Mm.
your body, and your soul. Yours. And no one can do that for you. No one can.
Nope.
So I
Nope.
really appreciated that, Charles. Thank you so much. And you guys, if you ever want to share, this isn't just about Natalie and I's perspective. Share away. Send us whatever you want. And I mean, if you even have a long story, I'll pop you up on here. You can come be on screen with us. Like this is a conversation that we get to have together. We really appreciate and enjoy the interaction that goes on in our chat room over here on YouTube. Facebook, nobody, people think they watch on Facebook, they comment on YouTube. um, so very, very seldomly do we get interaction on Facebook, but I am hanging out in both places. If you guys have something you want to share, you can direct message. But it's so good. It's so good. I love it when we hear from other people. And Charles always has very wise things to say. I have Charles isms written in different various places throughout the years. So thanks,
He
Charles.
Charles has probably been through a thing or two
I think so.
to be wise like that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And we have a lot of great listeners, wanderers that show up every week too. So thank you, you guys, to all of you. We really appreciate it. Do you have anything else you want to talk about in regards to suffering?
Hmm. I was just feeling about that.
Um, I don't know. I just feel like called to talk to like the beginners. Because I remember when I stepped in onto this journey, I didn't know anything. I wasn't religious. I wasn't spiritual. When I had my NDE, I literally was shaken awake. Like, there is so much more to this human experience than we could ever possibly know, understand, fathom, any of it. And um, what I've learned along the way is we can continue to seek out answers or seek quick fixes or how to do this or what to do next. Um, but the most solid advice that I could give is that the answers are always inside of you if you take the time to just pause and listen. And um, trust your intuition and where it guides you, because there's not one person out there who's going to heal you or fix you or teach you everything. They say life is a journey, not a destination. And the reason why I believe they say that is because you don't learn everything in like a college course over a series of 4 years. This is a lifetime education, and nobody ever fully arrives, right? They don't fully arrive to their destination of like, I learned it all in this lifetime. And going back to what we said, how we're so hard on ourselves, where we just get in our heads and we think things need to look and be a certain way because we are comparing ourselves to other people. We're comparing our journey to someone else who is way ahead of us in their experiences. And we all start at a different place. There's different start points for all of us. And um, we get to go through this human experience with lots of really great, beautiful things. We also get to go through it with a lot of beautiful pain.
Mm.
And they go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. That's part of this experience. And the greatest healer you'll ever know will be yourself. The greatest guru you'll ever know will be yourself. The greatest love you'll ever receive is from yourself. And we are always, and I'm generalizing, seeking outside of ourselves for the answers or for the feelings or for the validation when everything we need is right here, right here inside of us. And I love this. We have a mutual client who is also a manifester. And she and I have been chatting a little bit, and she sent me a YouTube video this morning, and it was just a short little clip from Greg Braden, who I really like. Had he had talked about like the benefits that every belief system has about getting out of your head and into your heart space. And he's talking about like you can just put your hand on your heart or tap on your heart or push on your heart, but breathe in to your heart space and how it takes you out of your head and into your heart, because your head doesn't really offer you much, right? And not the way we are conditioned to believe that it does. But when you tune into your body, into your heart space, you get it out of your head space. And I just thought that it was so appropriate. She sent me that today, and I was like, wow, like we suffer in our minds
Mm.
more than anything. That's where the suffering is in our minds. And although like we may be having this painful experience, we make everything so much worse with our mind. And if
Yeah.
we can step out of our mind space and step into our heart space, what a different experience we will have. So it is as simple as connecting to your breath and like tapping your heart or placing your palm on your heart or doing a mudra over your heart or whatever that is. But being present in the moment with your heart space and stepping out of your head space, the amount of peace that you'll feel, even in that moment, just to bring you back to ground you, will be so substantial. So when you're like spinning out because the suffering feels so great, I would say if you have any control of anything in that moment, it's to switch the energy from the head to the heart.
It's been said that that heaven and hell is about 18 inches
Ah,
apart. Don't miss the mark.
isn't that true? Isn't that true? Wow.
Yeah. I want to, the gurus get to be gurus because they suffer too,
Oh, for sure.
but they
We're
just
we're all
did
teachers,
this.
right?
They had to practice the freeing themselves from suffering to be able to speak like a guru.
Mhm.
I was gonna that's really good, talking to the beginners, because we're all beginners at
Mhm.
some point.
I think we're all beginners at all points in this human
Mhm.
experience. None of us know enough to be more than that in this lifetime, in my opinion.
Right.
I'm sure I'll get a message about that, but that's okay. I love ego conversations.
That's good. So you had briefly touched and said that I was going to be jumping timelines last show. You said I'm going to be jumping timelines. So I want to talk a little bit about because I just came to this awareness. So I've had the opportunity to have one very intimate interaction with an author who I admire so deeply. Well, I've had a couple. I remember the first time I saw him perform. Um, and I met him. So I stood in the line to meet him because he was doing meet and greets at this event. And he was smaller than I thought, like bigger than life on stage. And
Mhm.
here he is. He's a man. He's a human in a form doing his gig. And then I'm headed towards it's going to be a rather intimate, lengthy experience. And I was having this intimidation in a way, um, because we're asked to bring pieces of writing or things with us. And I was just like, I don't know. And my higher self reminded me, look, I'm not him.
Mhm.
I I read his books. His writing is his writing. It doesn't have anything to do with me. He is what in the human design realm is said as an excellent outer authority. He's living in his form. He's speaking from his place in a way that he's interesting for me to read and serves as a great outer authority for me. But in no way am I supposed to be like him. But
Mhm.
oftentimes we'll want to fashion ourselves after someone, thereby losing our essence because we're not
Mhm.
that person. So if you're listening to gurus, listen to the content or the concepts that they're speaking about. And I find that that's a skill set in itself, to filter through everything and get the concept, and then employ it in your own life. And then you get to be and grow into that guru status within your own life. And when you clear out all the clutter and the noisy mind, monkey mind, and it's a cleaner space, like you were mentioning, we're responsible for the interior environment, the thoughts, and all those things. And when you take responsibility for that and you no longer allow that culture to be inside of your skin, it's going to take a while for it to take hold. But I can tell you, it does take hold. I used to have to shush my mind and tell it to stop looping and having these pointless conversations. I would loop on the same point for 3 hours. I remember doing this. I don't have to do that anymore. My mind
Mhm.
just doesn't do that. I retrained it so it doesn't do that anymore. Your mind's been trained to what it does today. It can be trained into something else. So with this intimidation, I was like, you know what? I'm putting myself in an uncomfortable, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't. I just feel that it's definitely another life-changing experience, and I'm
Mhm.
up for it. But I'm taking myself there for myself to be tuned, not to become anyone else. If I
Yeah.
go among great people, they're doing great things. I'm going with the realization that I'm great in my way. And I'm
Yeah.
going to collect goodness from these great people to come back and share the greatness with the audience and with my clients and with my friends and loved ones. Just
Yeah.
bring that, to to hone myself and to gain experience. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited for you and to meet the new version of Natalie on the
Mhm.
flip side. It's going to be so good. And
Yes.
with all of that being said, you guys, obviously because Natalie's not here next week, we're not going to have a show, but we'll be back the eve of Thanksgiving by request because we took a vote if you guys would come hang out with us, if you would be too busy or not. And I haven't even talked to Natalie about this yet, but I have a really good idea for a special Thanksgiving episode. And um, it would be one of two things, actually. I don't want to give too much away because I need to talk to Natalie about it. But both ideas are spectacular. And we'll really enjoy spending time and space with you. I'm not really a holiday person, so it won't be holiday related, that's for sure. But it will be a wanderer related. So we do hope that you come and hang out and participate and share your time and energy with us as usual because we just really love and adore all of you and appreciate you so much. So remember, next week, no show. We'll be back the following week on the 26th at the same time and the same places. And if you guys have a show topic, request, you can always send them to us at connect@soulwanderings.com, or you can direct message us on any of our social media platforms. We hang out on Facebook and Instagram. I got us off of everything else. I mean, it's still there, but we don't participate. But we're gonna miss you guys, and
Yeah.
we'll see you all in 2 weeks. Thank you for being here with us, and thank you for sharing, Natalie.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm looking forward to my experience.
Might be a little envious, but I'll work on that suffering. Good night, everyone.
Have a good one.
Have a good one.